We had great times, but Mum and Dad also used to fish down in Happy Valley, and they'd wade out to the surf up to their waists with many other fisher persons trying to catch trevally. We also had great fun too when the fishermen came down to Moffat Beach and they'd put their net out and haul in the mullet. We all sort of helped, and we somehow used to get a couple of mullet. They were really happy days. And then we had a bit of a break in coming up because my mum and dad were going down to Cleveland to his sister's place, but we started coming back about 1957. We came back up again and had some more holiday up here again. When we got married in 1962, my wife and I had our honeymoon up here, part of our honeymoon, and then we started coming up here on annual holidays every now and then, and we rented a place down on Oviedo Terrace. I can remember that one because one of my fellow colleagues at work, Jack Donovan, owned that one at the time, but there are other places that we rented from time to time. I can still remember when I first came up here in '48, I had fallen out of a mango tree and I had my left arm in a sling, and I can still remember going to see a doctor down in the main street somewhere near where the National Bank used to be. It was a house there, and he was a visiting doctor. He came in from there then often. I got in also too, Dad said, I can remember Dad saying to me, I went in the water with my arm because I wanted to get in the water in the channel, and it was amazing. After a couple of days the bruise came out. My arm was blue. It actually, the salt water, he believes, brought the bruise out. I can still remember vaguely, we went down to Kings Beach one afternoon, and the word had got around that no one was really in swimming because a shark had taken a man earlier that morning in the surf, and they'd put the drum lines out, or drum hooks out, to try to catch the shark. That sort of saddened it a little bit because we were really frightened to go back in the water again. So really, we went down to Two-Way back. That was before we went to Two-Way Lake, by the way, down Moffat Beach. So we'd go down to Moffat Beach for our swims, keep out of the surf for a few days. I came back to Caloundra from time to time, as I said earlier, and in 2009 my brother bought a house up here over at Little Mountain, and that gave me a little bit of the itch to want to come up here. We were getting a little bit worried about our place in Brisbane because it had very high walls, because we're on a very steep slope in Holland Park, and we eventually bought a unit in Canberra Terrace. And it wasn't long after that, there were some gentlemen around the lighthouse one Saturday afternoon, and I decided to come up and just see what's all this about. And I had a bit of a chat with them, and they said, would you like to come and join us? And therein it lies. I became a member, and I've been with them since I think about 2011 probably, and I've been president for a couple of years. I really enjoy my time up here. It's great camaraderie with the other members of the team here, the group, and we've done a lot of work up here. There's a couple of gentlemen have been put an amazing amount of work into it, and we've had great liaison with the council as well, and Roger Todd and myself have been instrumental in signing a licence with the council for 3 years to look after and allow people into the signal station and the lighthouse. It's a great time, it's great fun, and we've seen many people come in. Just one thing I always remember, my brother repeats it quite often, that's my younger brother, and when we came up, as soon as we got to the top of the hill, before you look and you first see the sea, once we first saw the sea, we used to have great excitement. It was great excitement because we'd see the sea. But on a bit of a downside, later on, we'd come up with Mum and Dad in the car. Mum always wanted to stop for a cup of tea somewhere, and that made us a bit restless. once we saw the sea, we were right. But also too, when we got to the camping ground, especially at Moffat Beach, we'd like to take off, and Mum would say, "Come back here, you three. You've got to help your dad put up the tent. When you've done that, then you can go for your swim." Thank you.
You mentioned you got a lift with the on the water truck.
Yes, I did too. Yes, I did. That was back. There was a bad drought. Probably not, I'm not sure it was 1950 or 51, and Ray Tilney, he used to do local carrying for. He had an Austin truck, and it was probably about a 3 or a 4 ton truck, and he had a water truck on it. A water tank on it, about 500 gallons, and he'd go down to. He used to do this on behalf of the council. He went down to the 2 big tanks down at Moffat Beach. They had a bore down there, and one was a little on stumps. I think that was maybe for the ablutions, for a little bit of water pressure. But they had this very big tank there. I don't know how many gallons it would be. It's got to be at least 10 or 20,000 gallons. And Ray had come down there and pumped into his truck, and Ray was a great guy. He said, "Go and you can ask your mum and dad. I'll take you for a bit of a ride on one of my trips." And I can still remember we went out to where the former private hospital was, out on the point, Cape Wickham, and I can also remember another one where we went down to the sanitary dump. I can still smell that place. And we went to a number of residences, and he was a great guy, Ray, and apparently he's done a lot of work for council and the military during the war as well. Yeah, a really nice fellow, and it was a real experience.